What's up, everybody? Hope you guys are doing well today. So one of you guys asked me a question, and in this video I want to answer that question the best that I can. The question is, what do you do when you're in a dry season? Now, if you are a Christian, we all understand what this dry season means, right? It's a time where we feel like we can't hear God, feels like He's punishing us, we don't feel close to God, we're not motivated to pursue God. And so when you acknowledge that you are in a dry season, you gotta ask yourself 3 questions. Why are you in a dry season? What do you do during a dry season, and how do you get out of a dry season? Why number 1? The question you have to ask yourself is, am I spending time with the Lord? If the answer is no, that's kind of why you may be in a dry season and God may be pushing you to say, hey, whoever you are, read, follow me, pursue me. Because oftentimes in those situations, you closed your heart off and you made that decision and choice, yet we ask God, why am I feeling this way? When you know the answer. Number 2, another reason why you may be in a dry season is because of sin or a bad habit or idolatry. My pastor put it this way: anything that shifts your focus away from God is considered an idol. The only one thing that separates God and man is sin. Sin is the only thing that gets in the way between man and God's relationship with each other. It makes sense, and we're all guilty of it every single day, right? It's just you made that choice to not spend time with God and to spend time with something else. Therefore, our focus have been shifted from God to something else. And that is where things can get very dangerous, especially if you have bad habits of constantly doing that and staying in that. Number 3, now say you're the most faithful Christian ever, right? You've prayed, you read, you go to church, you have a community, you tithe, you fast, you do all these things a Christian should do, yet you're still feeling dry and you're asking, why am I still feeling dry? But I want you to understand this: be patient. And that's probably the answer that nobody wants to hear, and because everyone says that, but the answer is be patient. Sometimes it could feel like God is punishing you, but the truth is He's actually protecting you and preparing you. The analogy I can give you is this, right? When you put bread into the oven to bake, and you pull it out too soon, it's too weak. The foundations are too weak. So what happens to the bread? It deflates and it crumbles. Now, when you put in the bread and you keep it in too long and you pull it out, the bread is burnt. It's hard, you can't eat it, it's dead. But when you put it in and you bake it the right amount of time and you pull it out at the perfect time, the bread is how it should be. And that's what God does in all of our lives, right? He puts us in a certain situation so that we can grow. But if He pulls us out too early, we'll never experience the potential growth and God will never receive the glory. If God were to put us in a situation too long and He pulls us out of it, we're going to be too burnt out. We're going to be too dead and tired and exhausted, and we're not going to be able to understand what God was trying to do for us. But what God does is He puts us in a situation and He pulls us out at the right time, because God's timing is perfect. And when He does that, we're able to understand what God was truly trying to teach us and show us during those times. And so that is why be patient. Be patient and wait, because God is cooking you. So the next question is, what do you do during a dry season? I'm going to cover all 3 points in one gigantic summary. Number 1, be patient. Number 2, be faithful. Number 3, be obedient. You gotta be patient, right? You gotta be patient and you gotta listen. Because God lives outside of time and we live within time, we can never fully understand God's perfect timing. As man, as woman, as people, our flesh wants answers immediately and we want things now. But God is a good God, a perfect God, and He knows exactly what He's doing. And that is why we have to faithfully be patient and have faith in God. And with faith comes work, and that's where obedience comes into play. You still serve God with everything that He's given you, acknowledging that everything around you is not yours, but it is His, and He's given it to you to be good stewards. And that's why during a dry season, the only thing we can do is just to be patient and be faithful with everything God has given us, and to serve God and to serve others out of obedience, not because we're forced to or because we feel like we have to, but it's because God calls us to be obedient and to do those things even when we don't want to. And that's part of being in God's family. God is our Father and we live under His house. Just like when you lived under your parents' house, you followed under your parents' rules. We live under God's house, and there are certain house rules that we live under by, and this is just one of those things. Now the last part is, how do you get out of a dry season? Ultimately, God determines when we go in and when we come out of a dry season. We have no power and authority to pull ourselves out any time, but God has placed people in our lives to help us through our walk in the dry seasons. Number 1 is share. Share with God how you're feeling, what you're going through every single day. He will be the ultimate comforter through those times, and He'll give you the most peace. It may not give you peace the first day and the second day and the third day, but maybe a week after it may. And sharing your day and how you're feeling to God ultimately leads to prayer. But also share what you're going through with other people, whether it's your church pastor, whether it's your church leader. It can be someone older or someone you respect. But understand it's not about how many people you share with, it's about who you share with. So I've met people where when they go through hard times, they share with people. A lot, dozens and dozens of people, and it just looks really ugly on them. Even after they share it with like 12 to 24 people, they still feel the same way. But you could meet 1 to 2 people who are wise, who walks with the Lord, who loves the Lord, who points you to the right direction and gives you guidance. Always look at the one who's giving you the advice. Always look at their lives. Do you really want to get advice from that person in their life condition today? And that leads to the second one, which is listen. Listen. God speaks in 3 ways today. Number 1 being the physical word of God that God has already written, past, present, and future. The second one being through people, and the third one being through miracles, signs, and wonders. It's like 99% of the time. I don't know why I say 99, but 100% of the times. Everything that you're going through, it's all here, and we just have to read through it and listen to what God is trying to speak to us. And the second one are through people. As you share what you're going through, most likely what'll happen is they'll speak back to you, and that's where you have to listen. But again, it's about who you talk with, not how many people you talk with. And through the listening process, you have to be very discerning. Just because they said all these things doesn't mean you have to apply all of those things. Be discerning of what to take and what not to take, what you can apply and what you shouldn't apply. And how do you get out? Number 3 is the same exact thing, be patient. That is the answer to all 3 points, right? Be patient, faithful, obedient. Patience, faithful, obedient. Patient, faithful, obedient. One of you guys asked me what one of my favorite passages was in the Bible. I have a lot, but one of my favorite stories is in Matthew chapter 4, and it's when Jesus was in the wilderness for 40 days, facing temptation and saying no to Satan for all 40 days. During those 40 days where Jesus had no food or water and was constantly tempted by Satan, he was faithful, he was obedient, and he was patient. He did all those 3 things. He came out and began his ministry. I look at that story over and over again, and I'm reminded how I should be living my life. And if you're watching this, please take 5 minutes out and just read Matthew chapter 4. And that's really how you get out of a dry season, right? You are patient, faithful, and obedient. And in God's timing, He will pull you out at the perfect time. And that would be it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Man, that was long and informational, and I've never talked that much. If you have any questions or want to let me know what you thought about this video, let me know in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed it, give it a big thumbs up, consider subscribing, hit that bell notification for future uploads, and again, I'll see you guys in the next video. Over. Good night, good morning, adios.